Okay, so now it is April 14th, 2020. I'm just going to do this quick, right? I'm feeling really blue right now, people. I am so fucking depressed. My landlady just made it so much harder for me with what happened yesterday. It just makes me feel so insecure, right? She knows I can't go out into the country, people, with a baby that's disabled, with no resources, no money, right? I don't even pay my rent in full on time in this place. How do you think that makes me feel? Like all my money would be going out to rent and to CIBC Bank. That would be it. And I'd be completely grounded, sitting in a bush, having Julian's sister fucking hiding in the bush with her friend, right? Stalking my house. I could see it happening. And I'm in that little house out in the country by myself with children. So it's completely impractical, people. And now I'm back to that. Well, with the whip on the back, work like a bitch until you drop, right? And then get kicked out to be homeless as you lose everything around you because you're losing it anyway. It's been that pattern for quite a while. Honest to God, if I lived in the States, people, there would be lawyers that would be stepping up to the plate to help me. We have to ask ourselves why there are no lawyers in Canada willing to help me. Because there's lawyers out there that know about this, people. They have my YouTube channel. They have information. Some of them have known me for a long time. They just don't want to get involved. Which tells me that some of these people are involved, people, in terms of with the criminal activity. Who? I don't know. But it's a network, right? So anyway, here's what's happening. I'm being criticized, basically, for being, I guess you can say, open-minded. Elsie! In regards to what happened to Sierra. It's not a simple overdose, people. I mean, that's already been expressed. But I'm expected to treat it as so. And just be done with it and forget about it. Because Sierra, quote unquote, did it to herself by not changing her behavior in terms of being an addict. Because over the years, people, I don't know, I've been fighting for Sierra for a long time. Okay? I admit the last couple of years, I've been pretty worn out with her, right? You know, I gave it my all with that house, that little house, people, right? It's not my fault that it got took over by a bunch of fucking people that were just living for the moment and doing what they wanted and didn't care about the consequences around those actions to the point where it kind of ruined it for everybody, right? It ruined it for them. It ruined it for me. It ruined it for a whole lot of other people that if the house would have worked, you know, there could have been a better chance of getting another house. But that's not the agenda out here, people. The agenda is to run the addicts to the ground until they're dead. Whether they OD on their own, by accident, or by suicide, or whether they're straight up fucking murdered, and those murders are covered up through the coroner's office, through the police, through the healthcare system, and any other partnering agency or affiliate that facilitates criminal activity for the end goal to traffic human body parts. Right? And it's flourishing, people. It's been flourishing. All the legislation is in place to protect the criminals within our governments. Nothing is there to protect the individual and their families and their loved ones. Right? We know that gang stalking is rampant, and it's based around retaliating actions, right? And it's perpetual over a period of years, right? But for somehow, some means, Sierra's death was deserving because she did it to herself for being an addict, and therefore she couldn't have been murdered. Right? She couldn't have been in a snuff movie. Nobody would have wanted to harvest her organs. She was a junkie. Right? This is what I'm hearing, people. And I'm like having to fight back and like, no. Just because somebody did drugs, was an addict, doesn't mean they can't get murdered. And it sure in hell doesn't mean that they weren't pillaged of their body parts, including their organs, people. Especially in an economy where we're being treated like we live in fucking Nazi Germany. And that's how it started in Nazi Germany. Everybody was round up, put into lockdown. And then one by one, they started getting picked off by the ones wearing the boots, the ones driving the car, right? The ones in positions of authority, right? British Columbia, Canada is notorious for having witchcraft embedded right into our government agencies, people. They've dubbed Victoria, BC to be the capital of Canada when it comes to government corruption and witchcraft, right? And it goes as far back with the residential schools and with the Native women going missing, right? People have tried to take the government, federal, provincial, the Queen, the RCMP, whoever, to court. Because some of those individuals use their positions of authority to do heinous crimes that center around witchcraft, although they hide behind the Catholic Church. Okay? So it's nothing new under the sun to have somebody be snuffed out in a snuff movie in British Columbia, Canada. Because if you Google snuff movies and, Native women missing or being in snuff movies or whatever in Canada, British Columbia, Canada, something's going to come up and you're going to find it. Because the information is already there. People have been fighting against it for a long time, people. The problem is the ones that are fighting against it oftentimes get murdered themselves. Get rid of the witness. What happened to Shimei? Shimei was a witness to what happened to Andre. Shimei was a witness to what happened to Sierra. Shimei was a witness to what happened to Uncle John. Then she was what? Gone out the door, right? And it was a big cover-up, people. Her murder was a big cover-up, right? Sierra was a witness to all of that, in addition to the pharmacare fraud that she herself had to face. As she's being sent out of the hospital to go away and not have procedures after she was told she was going to get them, but then to only be told, put on your clothes and get the fuck out. As she's walking out, she hears those same people that just told her to get out going into another room, calling those people her name, which more than likely were an immigrant that had no health care insurance and needed the same kind of procedure done. The one doing the procedure wouldn't know who's who. They're just doing the procedure. Right? And records are being falsified, people. I can prove that with Shemaine. Right? We know that something funky is funky, literally funky, going on with Sierra. Not with Sierra being a drug addict and dying. With Sierra dying with the cops and the coroner and John and his lawyer and whoever else is lurking around acting all fucking funky. And I'm expected just to forget about it because the problem, the junkie, is now dead and basically did it to themselves. This is how society has been conditioned to think. And this is why murder en masse continues to happen. This is why organs and body parts are being harvested illegally, okay, without people really realizing what the hell is going on. Elsie! Shut up! Hey! She's looking for her sock so she can run around the house and pretend she's a mother. That's what she does. Okay, so I'm being basically beat up for trying to find out the truth with what happened to Sierra. And if I ever find it out, people, just like with Shemaine, I kind of know what happened to Shemaine. I don't know how Julian hot capped her, but I know she was hot capped, and I know what happened after the fact, right? That part I do know. And I have it documented, people. Sierra, I mean, obviously we're dealing with more shady shit because we're getting into different kind of legislation where it prevents me from gaining access to critical files in terms of these so-called autopsy reports and pictures to document how she looked because, you know, as it is right now, I'm saying we don't know if she was alive or dead around the corner of that door frame. Just because you may have seen an arm doesn't mean she was dead. They didn't give us that opportunity to look for ourselves, people. That says something. I have come across a video that I did when I was on the porch. That video that I did when I was on the porch. I have come across something that is very suspicious. I just haven't been able to do a video on it yet. I'm trying to, one, take care of this other stuff, and two, you know, I'm trying to figure out how I can present it where people can use their critical thinking skills and tell me where I'm wrong. Because I need to be told that I'm wrong before I can, and explain why I'm wrong, before I can drop the presumption. Because right now it's just a presumption. But based on the history of British Columbia, Canada, with Satanism built right into our government fucking agencies and our policing agencies, with various people over the years trying to expose the corruption around those individuals that use taxpayer dollars to commit heinous crimes against the people they were employed to serve and protect. Okay? It's not unfathomable for me what I'm suspecting to not be true. In other words, there's a probability that what I'm thinking is true. But I'm not allowed to think like that because I should be happy that my daughter is dead and I should just get over it. So this is what's being hammered into me right now. Right? And in part is because, you know, they don't want to see me suffer any more than I've already been suffering with Andre, you know, Sierra while she was alive, the disappearance and whatnot with Uncle John, then the death of Shemaine and the cover-up around that, you know, and just not going anywhere at any point in life with, getting restitution, right? Because the city of Surrey pops up every year, a year and a half, with their ambiguous phone call, with their ambiguous threats to keep me on my toes so I lose my house, so that I have a nervous breakdown. I lose my grandkids, so I have a nervous breakdown, so that I lose my will to fight, so that I die, and then the problem goes away, because the majority of people just don't have it in them to fight, right? For whatever reason. So, in that sense, yeah, okay, maybe I can understand it, but at the end of the day, I was chasing after Sierra when she was 13 years old, trying to pull her out of fucking houses that were feeding her dope, as those nasty, dirty fucking cops stood there and said, no, we can't take her out. Well, she was 14 by that time, because that's what they used. Oh, 14, she's old enough to make her own decisions. It doesn't matter if the woman inside that house is feeding a 14-year-old speed methamphetamine and getting her to go out there and rob other people's purses and, and just, infect more kids with more dope. And it didn't matter. None of that fucking mattered. Cops didn't even call social services on our people, right? Because they needed their little fucking junkies. That's why. They needed their little fucking drug addicts to be 15, 16, 17, fill up the youth detention centers, keep those youth workers working, right? Knowing that it was just a matter of time before they would be prostituted out on the streets. And then, fucking just keep them out there, strung out, beat, fucking, just all kinds of crazy shit, out here in fucking Surrey, people. All kinds of crazy fucking shit. As the cops are just kind of fucking corralling everybody around and, what is it called? Being the handlers of, who they are, right? And then when they decide they don't want somebody anymore because that person is a problem, like Sierra, Sierra obviously became a problem for them, right? She wasn't as manageable as she used to be because the brain damage was so fucking bad from the social abuse by those types of people. Right? Well, they had one big bang for her. One big fucking bang out the door, people. So if I'm going to chase after Sierra when she's 13, 14, chase after her when she's fucking 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all the way up until the fucking end, why would I drop the ball now? Especially if what happened to her doesn't sit right. I wouldn't. Is it going to be easy? Well, obviously not. Is it going to put me in my grave? Could very well. Because I'm not far from it when I get phone calls like I did yesterday from my landlady rubbing in the fucking salt when she damn well knows I have no place to go. And just because she offered me some little house out in the country, it wasn't so much for me as it was for her, because she's feeling bad for kicking me out. So if she offers me something, then I say, no, I can't take it. Then she won't feel bad for kicking me out when the time comes. So now I'm like, okay, well, we talked, everything was fine, for a moment, until it springs up again, out of nowhere, whatever that may be. So now I'm back with that, I'm working in the yard to die. I'm working in the yard for somebody else to fucking leave and die. Basically, I'm not doing it for me. Before my landlady called me, I was in the mode with, no, finish the yard for yourself, right? Obviously for your landlady and whoever else, just get it done, be happy. You can do it. You're strong. Working in the yard, lifting rocks, lifting bricks, lifting buckets of dirt. It's good for you. It keeps you healthy, keeps you strong. You need that to be able to look after Amari, right? Getting ready to hunker down and do it. But now I'm doing it to be kicked out. It's just a matter of time. It's just terrible. As I'm being beat up for wanting to find out the truth and not accept a lie as to what happened to Sierra. Because ultimately, in those types of people's minds, Sierra was an addict and she deserved what she got, regardless of what it was. Didn't matter if she OD'd quietly on her own or if somebody fucking had her in a snuff movie and she died that way. As long as she's died and the problem is gone. That's really hard for me to wrap my head around, people, and fight against in my own fucking home. Or anywhere else I go and come into contact with that type of attitude. And a lot of people have that type of attitude. Right? And that's why there's so much death in the community. Okay? There was death in this community years ago. Go into my videos. I talked about those 2 people that were shot dead not even 200 feet away from me, left in the fucking field covered up with some bush to be out there for 2 freaking weeks rotting under the sun. Alright? 2018, a woman just over there in the ravine, another, 300 feet away from me, right, in the fucking ravine, murdered with her eyes gouged out. Like Janice Shore, who was, murdered and hung from a tree with her eyes gouged out, not even fucking 10 blocks away from me, back in, 2013, 14, 15, and around that time period. I can't remember exactly when. This is nothing unusual for Surrey. It's just the numbers are ramping up more and more and more. And nobody does anything about it. And when you do try and do something about it, or even just think about trying to do something about it, you get beat up for it. As you're being gang stalked from multiple fucking levels. City of Surrey, right? Obviously the healthcare system, right? Police, the coroner's office, right? I don't know why my landlady jumped on that bandwagon other than she can make $700,000 profit on this house. The snap of her fingers. They bought it for $700,000. They can sell it for $1.5 million. You do the math. I've been here 10 years. They own 3 other houses that I'm aware of. This is the 4th house. Maybe they own more. I don't know. Why they want to sell this one and not the one out in the farms, I don't know. Other than the one out in the farms, leave it for another 10 years and it will be in the same situation as this house, where if I lived there, invested 10 years into that yard, it would be the same kind of scenario. The property developers have now encroached into that area and have started wiping out the wildlife, the trees, and, and anything else in their fucking path. They're like locusts, right? And they'll clear out every fucking little house, all the properties, and they'll just continue to build their monster homes and their townhomes and their condos and all that other shit. And people will continue to die. Organs will be continued to be harvested legally or illegally. It won't matter as long as they get harvested. People will still have the wool pulled over their eyes, right? And because everybody's so passive and there are no real heroes in fucking Canada, never mind British Columbia, Canada, right? Nothing will change. The status quo will just get more deeper and deeper entrenched into the deep state of corruption, right? And children will be born for the purpose to harvest the organs like a Mari at the leisure and convenience of some crooked fucking doctor that just has to do one thing to screw over a Mari, and yeah, that's it. It's done. It's done. It's fucking done. Oh, sorry, your grandson died on the operating table. We don't know why. He just did. Here, sign here. We want his organs. It's that simple, people. And because the cops are corrupt and the coroner is corrupt and basically the government in general and they're fucking the majority of their employees that either one want to keep their head in the fucking sand and be oblivious to what's around them, or they directly participate in this fucking criminal activity, you know, they don't give a shit. That's what they work for. More money, more wealth, more prestige, you know, the closer they get to fucking their heaven, which is Satanism, basically. That hide behind the Catholic Church, for a large majority of them. Right? That's what Eleanor Gilding taught me. Let me hide behind the Catholic Church, but underneath, when you pull back the cloak, what do you see? You see the dungeon. And we know what the Catholic Church did in the dungeon to innocent people. Well, they're still doing it. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. I'm in like a really deep mode of depression right now. I guess that would be expected, right? You know, I got my notice of claim almost ready to print out. I mean, obviously it's not going to measure up to the standard, but I'm doing the best that I can. I've narrowed it down to 3 ministers here, but honestly, I don't know how to list them down, because I don't think you can technically list the person's name, like, for example, the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, right? I don't know if I just list down the ministry itself in terms of Province of British Columbia, Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General on my notice of claim, and then the other one would be the Province of British Columbia, Attorney General, right? Versus adding their names in, because you're not allowed to sue the individual minister for the crimes of the many. I'm not going to include the RCMP because it's the RCMP that need to be investigated. I'm not going to include the coroner's office because it's the coroner's office that needs to be investigated. So I've kind of narrowed it down to those 2 ministers, well, ministries anyway. I don't know about adding their actual names in, but definitely their titles, their ministries, right? And then, of course, I really do want to bring in a federal minister. I so do, people. But I don't know how to add it in. I have no lawyer helping me. There are no heroes in this story. Just a bunch of villains. That's it. That's all we have is villains. So 2 anyway, for sure. The 2 that are on the petition, which I will print out and add to my notice of claim as statement of facts. Because if I don't do it that way, it could be years, if ever, before those ministers would even see that petition. Because we know once my shit hits the courthouse, they're going to try and bury it and act like it doesn't exist. Just like I'm being told to forget about Sierra and get over the fact that she's dead, and that anything that I think maybe suspicious happened is not warranted based on the idea that an addict can't be murdered, which is completely irresponsible and impractical. Right? So I'm going to leave it on that.